as Chundin Nagalva. It's my pleasure to introduce to you Tomaso Curran.
Mayo the Harlech. Harja, much of Mayo agus Public Dani Illegaleer, a Dan, Pier agus Geelish, from Glúiseacht na Publicta. The Glúiseacht atá bhéim in Éireann, as dóilecht, as Ken Ochgéad Blin. O Ineag Seascas an Í, an Céir Dúr a Rír, a chordaine garam na Bratanach, Cush, ar Hallan na Héireann. Sin Ochgéad Blin, agus Ceir a Scór. Agus Ceir a Scór Blin, agus Níl Och Mlíonna Déag an Ní, a rééis airí Mach na Cosca a sé Déag. Tá muid fós a géire deire a chuile réim hasna an Éireann. Tá muid dártha uaireantaí. 17 has na héintach den Éireann le chéile, caite le Kilhagas Patastónach, Fui Wolf Tone, Fui Henry Jai, agus Rubor Dimmet. Hepar up, agus hepar bharam na Franca, for Harik Shidan Shaw, Mayo go Wildra Hampshire as go Hogar Journal. Ach last year chin a tinne, a tabim, agus an spalt a time check with the law Tanya one, Shina Hanins Mojekimo. Chairman, Mr. and all Republican people, it's an honour for me to speak here in this beautiful county, a fine county, a county that I had many friends myself when I was away out of Ireland. A county that has stayed true to the ideals of Tone, Connolly, Pearse and Emmett, to mention but a few. You look at your memorial here, you have, as Paddy Riley wrote out, the East Mayo Brigade Roll of Honour. But also beside it, you have the men who made the supreme sacrifice. Think about it. The supreme sacrifice. All three of them, on par with any other county in Ireland. Sean McNeil in 1940. Michael Graham, that he was at his own funeral in Kilburn. And Frank Stagg. 40, again in the 70s. And it just tells you that after 800 years of aggression, oppression, burning, selling, and trying to get rid of Irish people, and trying to get rid of Irish Republicans, they still are no nearer than they were when De Valera tried it in 1940. And try he did, lads. Because for a man himself that was on the run, that just because he was born in America that saved him from the British gallows, escaped out of Lincoln prison, it's amazing how he turned. And he did turn. And from 1798 onwards, to the Easter Rising, to the Tan War, people were defeated, but they were together. Right through the Fenian times, the Young Irelanders and the lot. And all the times we were ever defeated, we lived to fight another day. But in 22, came along Cumann and Gael, who divided the Irish people. These are Fine Gael today. And shortly, on the 8th of December 1922, shortly after their coming into power, they executed one from each province of Ireland to put the fear into the Irish people. Joe McKelvey from Belfast, Rory O'Connor in Dublin, Lee Meadows representing Galway and Connacht, and Dick Barrett from Cork. And to see them, I see what goes on in the county council, and I see what went on when I was abroad about a road in Brussels last year. How these people would look on us as true Republicans, as downcast. Well, one thing we never done. We never put our own men that fought with us up against the wall and shot them. And we never sent for Pierpont, the English hangman, to come back and hang them. Because we were loyal, and we stayed true to the cause of Irish republicanism. And such deeds, I must mention one county in particular that this went on, was in Kerry. They fought side by side until 22, and after the divide of 22, knowing where the men were, they brought petrol and tar out from Tralee and spilt it down on top of their former comrades in the caves in Clashmelkin. You'd hardly do it, you wouldn't do it to anything living, honestly. And these are the crowd as the gall today, to stand up and say that they are the part of a government in Dublin that downgrades us. People know. People are not fools. You might have thought older people who had allegiance to certain parties down through the years, but you're not going to call the youth what's left of them in Ireland, unfortunately, because that's what they want, is to get rid of them. Get rid of our youth out of Ireland. And then make the west coast of Ireland like Rory O'Brady and Dahi O'Connell, who are gone before us, had forecasted. A national park right through from West Cork to North Donegal. We all remember, Gordon who was here, remember going back to the fall of the Berlin Wall. And how it was applauded. And how Gorbachev came along and gave the freedom to the Baltic nations. We hear talks of Nelson Mandela again in the 80s. 26 years in a South African jail. Yes, they say follow Nelson Mandela. Nelson Mandela would be free after 1 month if he signed a declaration that he agreed to the regime in South Africa. Nelson Mandela signed nothing. Nelson Mandela cannot be compared with these lackeys above in Leinster House, in Stormont or in Westminster. Nelson Mandela was a man of principle. In or about this time, 98 years ago, there was queer rattle-tattles around the GPO in Dublin, and indeed in other parts, that rose out as well. And it was the flame that was relit that inspired the people, and that got the people out even though they were defeated, and they knew they were going to be defeated, and they knew what their fate was. And your chairman Dan says there about James Connolly brought out and shot in a chair. Well, God, I'm just wondering where they're now or where they're looking from. And they must be turning in their graves with what's going on. They must be turning in their graves at the sight of the enemy being brought to Ireland. Brought into the Garden of Remembrance, brought to a dinner, had the ball to relieve on those that they murdered. And a couple of weeks ago, we see a return of that by the president of this so-called Free State, Michael D. Not too far from myself in Galway. A socialist, believe me or not. A man that went down to Shannon and blocked the route for Ronald Reagan in 85 or 86 or whatever year Reagan came here. And I wouldn't blame him for doing that. But he got away with it. And as I mentioned yesterday in Ayr Square in Galway, there was an old woman, Margarita Darcy, who done something similar. And she was picked up and thrown into jail for 3 months. Now, do you call that two-tier state? Is it two-tier fuckery? Or is it two-tier who you are and who you aren't? And yes, Mrs. Higgins had the gall to go down and speak to a blow in the prison. And when he used her husband's pen, he could have signed her out. Instead, he decided he'd go over with the lady that oppressed us and still occupies us, the Queen of England, and have a dinner with them in Windsor. Joined, of course, by some of our former comrades, and in particularly one, Martin McGuinness. Martin. They must really have looked after you, because you've gone down the very same road as those of the 20s and the 40s. But you haven't. Because the people of the 20s and the 40s, coming of age when they went into power, they changed it from Sinn Féin. Sinn Féin was founded in 1905 by Arthur Griffiths. They changed it to Coming of Age, later Fine Gael. Fianna Fáil decided to go in 1926 and got elected in 32, and they changed it to Fianna Fáil. They left the name of Sinn Féin behind them. But McGuinness and Adams and the leadership of what was that movement must be told and must drop immediately the honourable name of Sinn Féin. Sinn Féin is synonymous. Sinn Féin stands with the freedom of 32 County Ireland, a freedom for the people that they are not part of no more. They are a part of the British establishment. They are a part of the Free State government. And I remember here on a fine day like today in 1987, when the late Daithí O'Connell spoke here. And you know, he outlined it all that day, that what was after happening at the previous Ardèche would come to what it is today. And many good people stayed with the provisionals in a hope and believe in their lies, and they were lies. Because there are people that knew them better than I did. I never had that much dealing with them, thank God. But the people who knew them knew what they were up to. But the loyal people on the ground didn't know what they were up to. They thought that the unification of our country was to come. It didn't come, and it won't come. Through Leinster House, through Westminster, or through Stormont. The only way it'll ever come is people that will stand up. And the only thing that ever drove the British out of any country in the world was, unfortunately I have to say it, was war. And that's the only thing that will ever drive them out of Ireland. And believe me, when we're probably long dead, the people will carry on this struggle. The youngsters that are here today, maybe them, maybe their children or grandchildren after them. But it will carry on. And we won't stop commemorating, and we won't stop standing up to them, regardless of what it takes. And it's pointless for the Dublin government spending petrol on cars coming out to these commemorations like you have here today. It's a waste of space, lads. It's a waste of space, because I tell you what you have. You're working for a very, very corrupt system. The Dublin administration must be one of the rottenest systems in the world, and I'm talking about those in Leinster. We have no problem with ordinary people. We have no problem with people from other parties. They're all good people. We're not going to tar everyone with the one brush. There's none of us without a fault. But these good people in other organisations and other parties, you've helped us down through the years, and we'll be looking for your support again. Because at the end of the day, we are all Irish people, regardless of our religion or our creed. And that's what Tone and his comrades wanted, to break the connection with England and have a democratic and free Ireland for all the people of Ireland. I'll just finish up with what was in the Easter statement there, that we in Republican Sinn Féin are the true standard bearers of the Republican movement. People may associate themselves one way or another, but we are democratically elected president and a democratically committee elected every November at the Ardèche. So Des Dalton is the president of Republican Sinn Féin. We have our secretaries in Dublin. We have our treasurers. We have a Connacht branch. We have an Ulster branch. We have a Leinster branch, and we have a branch in Puigdemont. And we have branches and people in counties. And we are playing by the rules of the Republican movement. To keep yourself clean and clear of all those who try and associate with drugs and other bad things that goes on for our youth. Níochachishin mar an illa ata sulam gnámid ráis agus bio ríist le seasa ar na leachanaí seo an bhliain seo thugan. Agus mar na héin, tá na hógánaí ag teacht a níos, a chuineas an solas lasta. An míle maith go léir.